Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen DeFalco. I'm with the Sloan Research Papers team. It's my pleasure to introduce this afternoon Steve Ritter, who will be presenting Shopping for Tickets with Advanced Metrics. The presentation, like the previous ones, is going to go for 20 minutes, and we'll have 5 minutes for Q&A at the end, for which I'll be walking around the room with a microphone. With that, please join me in welcoming Steve.
All right, let's talk some tickets. Great to be here. A bit of a surreal experience for me. I don't know if you ever had your name listed alphabetically ahead of Sue Bird's, but I never thought that was going to happen, certainly 10 years ago. Glad to be here. So what are we doing here? Getting this together. All right, sports fans, they love data. If you're in this room right now, I'm guessing that sports fans are, your customers, they're stakeholders in whatever you're doing. You're doing research academically, you have a sports team, you're basically just always dealing with sports fans. And this is a great situation for you because this means that your customers love data. Your customers are people who are really interested in information. They're interested in analytics. That's something that marketers dream of, is having this idea of a numerate audience that's going to understand information when it's given to them. They thirst for it. They look online. They're trying to find stats on their favorite players, etc. And the more they like numbers, the more they like sports for the most part. The people who are really invested in sports, the people who are really invested in numbers, and back and forth. Whether it's whether they're super into chasing home run records or they're into the latest research. The investment in numbers is commensurate with their interest in the sport. And this happens when you have a product. If your product, you have a wearable, sports, wrist thing on your wrist that tracks your movements. You have a fantasy sports app, etc. Or if your product is the Knicks, you're collecting data. You have data. You love data as well. It's not a coincidence. That you love data. It's not a coincidence that sports ends up being something that numbers are naturally drawn to. It's not a coincidence that the analytics movement that erupted from a hobbyist movement. There's a passion for it, any more than it's a coincidence that the personal computer movement erupted from hobbyists. It's something that the geeks in their basements, like I was, Hi, Dad. Or just noticed you were there. Distracted. We grew up on Bill James. Lived our lives, sort of grew up, formed the intellectual basis of what we do on the idea that we could learn more from data. So what does this affect you? You have data. You have a product. You have access to proprietary information that people want insights in. You have player tracking data, you have usage data from your fantasy app, you own Dodger Stadium, you know how many hot dogs people consume. You use it, you look at it, you explore it, you develop techniques to better understand it, you do exploratory analysis, you learn things, right? You're looking at this data and why are you doing it? Because you want to know something that nobody else knows. You learn how many people are buying these hot dogs, you learn what features of your app increase engagement, you learn how much increasing ticket prices decreases how much people buy tickets, you see how often you can move them if you're pricing them dynamically before people stop buying them. And so suddenly you gain an edge. This is because of competitive edge sort of series, I guess, and there's better ways of measuring customer behavior, something your competitors do not know. You end up, something that they weren't even looking for necessarily, but you have information that your stakeholders are interested in. You have these sort of, you develop insights on your customers, and they don't have the time, they don't have the resources, they might not have the skills to get what they want, which is deeper understanding of the data that you have. All right, so you gain these edges and you have a choice. You can either keep it for yourself and try to exploit it. You can say, all right, we now have this edge. How do we win more games? How do we make more money? How do we sell more hot dogs? Or you can think about how you can benefit others by releasing your research, how you can focus on your customers, how you can develop products that revolve around how your customers use things to help them do it even better. And inevitably, everybody in this room, for the most part, has probably made the choice to keep it for themselves and try to exploit it. I have also done that. But one thing that we really try to do at SeatGeek is to do that as little as possible. We try to focus our analytics research around the customers. We try to develop products around our stakeholders and try to figure out, all right, we are getting all of this information from our customers. People are using our apps, they're buying tickets, they're shopping for tickets, they're searching for things, they're telling us what a good deal is, they're telling us what a bad deal is by the behavior that they exhibit on our apps, and we view this as an obligation to tell them what they did, to use the data that they give us to create a better experience the next time they come around, to make sure that everybody who comes and tries to buy a ticket has access to the collective knowledge of everybody else buying a ticket in the marketplace that we can observe. And so we see this as a partnership, that we're getting this data from people, they're using our product, and it's incumbent on us to make sure that they're getting as much value out of us as we are out of them. So as data scientists in this sort of situation, much of what we do is we can consider the sort of research and analysis that our customers would do if they had the time and the ability to do so. There are a half a dozen sessions at this conference about how to better understand, how to use data to better understand your customers. And so what I really want to talk about right now is developing data products to help your customers better understand you. So we build predictive models for ticket prices is the sort of main aspect of data we're talking about here. And this comes with it, like all of you are thinking about opportunity risk, the sort of idea that we could have these other opportunities to do with the research that we're doing. We could have the opportunity to buy tickets for ourselves, resell them at a markup if they're underpriced. We could have the opportunity to create a subscription service to say only allow, if you pay us this amount of money, then we will send you the list of the best deals. And this happens all the time. This is the biggest reason to keep your analytics private. This is the biggest reason to keep your research from being exposed, is the idea that somebody, sorry, not somebody, but there's a better thing you could be doing than helping others and providing a way for them to shop better. And that's, that'd be if Netflix just recommended you 10 rows of movies, but they didn't have the headings that say because you watched on top of it. There's no utility to that. There's just a list of things. Oh, God. Sorry. And yeah. And this all sounds crazy. The competitive risk here is the idea that you're in a competitive business. I tell people this, and they're like, oh well, we're a sports team. Like we should be keeping our analytics private. I assure you that the ticket market is just as competitive and cutthroat as the NBA in terms of the people using techniques that other people are using. This is not an industry that is devoid of competition. This is a place where people, if they don't want you running away with ideas, this very sort of arrogant attitude that your ideas are, so amazing that, just by sharing them with people, you're going to destroy your own business. And that's what comes to the hardest part, which is execution risk, which is the idea that, maybe our deal scores aren't that good. Maybe our price predictions are not that good. Maybe they don't resonate with people. Maybe the products that we're building don't really connect. Maybe if you produce something, you will find out that, or your competitors will find out that you are miles behind them, and they'll look at you and laugh. They'll be embarrassed when you sort of publish what you're doing. And I say, whatever. At some point, you just got to go for it. You build data products, and I am running super long here, but we are going to talk about Deal Score, which is our main data product. The idea basically about this is to predict the price of a ticket at its fair value, observe what it's being listed for, and compare the two and say, all right, we take, well, all right, we're going to skip over price forecasts. And right, so you have the lowest price ticket is often something that is not a particularly good ticket, and the best seats are often very expensive. And these are approximately, from a deal perspective, you want to buy them about the same. Like these, if the fair market value matches the prices listed for, this is something that we would call an average deal. And these are the two sort of established models of shopping for tickets. One is you sort your tickets by price, ascending. You look at the cheapest tickets and you try to buy one of those. The other is you start looking at the best seats and you try to buy one of those. And usually in practice, what ends up happening is you start at one end or the other and just scroll down until you find something you like, or you select a price range and say, all right, I'm just going to pick the best available seat in the price range that I'm willing to pay. And so what we've done basically is say, all right, well, we want to have great deals that are, three-star seats for $1, rather than awful deals, which are $3 seats or $3 for a one-star seat. How do we do this? We use our resources. So we found ourselves in the same position that your average sports fan does when he's trying to, or she's trying to, perform their own analysis. We found ourselves in the hobbyist position where basically there was no available data for this, and we had to collect it. We had to make it. We had to take it, and we had to use it to plug it. We had to find all this noisy data that sports analysts are very familiar with. Noisy data, and there's not much of it, but it turns out that the people in this room, you have all of the tools needed to analyze noisy data that there's not much of. That's what sports analytics does. There's especially, back in the day before we had SportView tracking cameras, which, again, is proprietary, but before we had a lot of the information that's out there today, we had, a lot of very inconsistent data that was not very good. And there's strong emotional response to your ratings for things, which is why when we first did this, we looked at the BCS rankings to try to figure out how to do this. We started looking at the different types of ways that people rank college football teams as a way that we would rank seats, and we ended up finding out that there were a lot of similarities. There's very sparse data. It's very high variance. It's pretty low quality, and we are finding out that the sort of best model that we were able to find for ranking the qualities of seats was the Peter Wolf's Bradley Terry model, which is part of the BCS until it met its unfortunate, or fortunate as it turned out, and I guess that was last year. We have, when we're looking at these data, we have unobservable quantities that vary over time. One of the things you're trying to find out like the core worth of an athlete or something, the strength of a sports team, similar to what we were doing, trying to find out the value of the ticket. And one of the things we looked at a lot was, one of the things that the thing that we ended up using for this was something that Dean Oliver published in 1997 when he was trying to figure out whether B.J. Armstrong or Michael Jordan was a better basketball player, and by how much. Turns out it's a lot. He uses this technique called Kalman filter, and we had this phenomenal coincidence because 3 years ago when we were developing this, the thing that we were selling the most tickets to was Knicks games. So we were basically taking this this technology that Dean Oliver had developed to sort of try to figure out how the quality of the Bulls changed when Michael Jordan got injured. And then at the very time we were testing it and going live with it, Jeremy Lin joined the Knicks and got in the starting rotation, and we suddenly found that the ticket market moves almost exactly in concert with how well a team is playing at the time, and that the models that were developed for tracking a team over time were actually almost perfect for tracking how the prices of a ticket were mapping the scores that we eventually came up with. So thank you, Dean. I'm sure I don't know if he's at the conference. I'm sure he's not here. But thank you anyway. So we open this up. We make no prescription for its use. And we end up that there's a lot of unforeseen risk in addition to the risks that we had. And the number one thing that was a risk that we didn't sort of realize was going to happen is that there is a reason that marketplaces do not pass subjective judgment on the products that they sell. Because marketplaces are two-sided. You have buyers and sellers. And if you're helping out buyers by saying this is how much, this is what we think you should do, you're going to have the other side get upset when you're saying, pushing the word awful deal next to the products that they're selling on your platform. But that wasn't all. The biggest complaints that we get are from season ticket holders who don't even sell their tickets through us, that email me personally and say that their seats are valued too low. Because they're only ever trying to sell their season tickets for the games that they don't want to attend, and then for the games that they don't want to attend, the prices are much lower than what they paid, and they don't quite realize this, and then they email me to complain. There's nothing I can do about it. But I used to respond with like long handwritten notes of like, this is what we do, but I don't have time to do that anymore. But that was an unforeseen reward, because we ended up finding out that these people that were not buying basketball tickets through us, that had season tickets to the basketball games, were actually some of our best customers. They were using our website far more than a lot of the people that came through organic search or came directly to the website. They were, and then we were able to identify them and saw like these people who come and just don't buy basketball tickets. They tell their friends who are going to buy basketball tickets, like, this is where you should buy it. And we ended up like sort of finding out that by sort of providing this service for people that we are not trying to sell anything to, and people who aren't going to buy anything for us and send me mean emails, we're actually able to gain new users who are power customers, because the kind of people who buy season tickets are the kind of people who have friends that buy 4 tickets or 3 tickets or 2 tickets to basketball games, and you get that trickle-down effect. And the other unforeseen reward is sort of, while we were sort of in the process of developing this product for the desktop, it ended up being a killer feature on mobile. We had no idea of what mobile was going to do when we started to, it doesn't look like the resolution's that good on this one, but anyway, we had no idea what mobile was going to be when we started doing this, but since we've launched our apps on iOS and Android, we found that people are searching far more frequently in short bursts, and that they are digesting limited amounts of information in limited amounts of time, and that having a clear information hierarchy and and having the ability to, in 60 seconds, get a really good idea of what the ticket market is for this Panthers-Bruins game or the Celtics-Cavaliers game, which I believe, yeah, that's next week. Good game. They would be able to sort of find out in a limited amount of time exactly what they're looking for, which is something that we were not 100% expecting. I think the number of times that someone opens the app on mobile before buying is about 5 times the number of times that they were visiting the desktop 2 years ago. They want to be constantly informed. They are digesting limited amounts of information. and this sort of hierarchy that we're able to provide, this completely accidental result of sort of failed price forecast feature that venture capitalists told us to turn into a hedge fund, ended up being this sort of this killer feature on mobile for a world that we were never expecting. And last but not least, we publish all the algorithms that we use on our blog. Believe heavily in open research. Money where my mouth is. I think you should do it too. I think the next time you're working on an analytics project, you should think, how could this help the customers? What could people glean from it? What do they want to know? And is there any way we can turn this into a product that would really help people understand where we're coming from, and publish it? Because people started hiring everybody that was doing interesting research on the internet, taking their websites offline. It sucks. I want it back out there. All right, I think that's all the time I got.